Hello homemakers and welcome to DrMummyCakes channel. This is one of my masterclass decorating tutorial where I show you in detail all the steps that I use to make this cake, so you will be able to create a cake like this in the comfort of your own home. There are lots of techniques that you will learn, so please watch the video all the way till the end. This is a whale and the snail cake that I made for a lovely little boy, and I used lots of techniques which I will show you. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button now. If you want to learn particular steps, look in the description and you can go straight to that part of the video. Let's get started. So I'm using my marble chocolate cake recipe. I have a full tutorial. If you want to learn how to make this, it will be shown at the top of your screen or in the description box. And you want to use a sturdy cake like this or like a Madeira cake because you want something that's not too soft that will withstand the carving process that we will do later on. Here I'm using Swiss meringue buttercream, but you can use any other type of meringue-based buttercream or my easy American buttercream. So add on a nice generous layer and then you just smoothen the cake. If you're new to working with buttercream, check out my buttercreams tutorial on the essential tools for making buttercream. Once you're happy with your first layer, then add the second layer of your cake. And in this cake tutorial, I'm going to be carving because I want to have a nice even surface. So I'm using a simple kitchen knife for my carving. If you don't know how to carve a cake, I would recommend you have a look at my tutorial where I show you the process in details of how to curve a cake. And the reason I'm curving the cake is because I want to have a nice smooth base. So I'm going to cut a hole in the center. So you can see why I said it's important to use a cake that is very sturdy. If the cake is too soft, it will crumble and you'll not be able to carve it. So this is the bit where we're going to make the little pool. So I'm using a kitchen knife. You can use a bread knife or a sharp knife, and you just want to gently just scoop it out. It's better to make it too shallow, and you can always take a little bit out rather than go too deep. And I'm just levering it up to cut it out. Now, because we're making a lake, you don't have to be so precise. You want to have jagged edge so that it looks more natural. So that makes it easier for you to carve. So you don't have to be so precise in the carving. So there we are. And I've gone a bit too deep and I'm just going to add a little bit of cake to make a nice base. So this is going to be our pool. Next, we're going to make the mountain. So I'm taking some of that cake that I've carved out and I'm mixing it with chocolate ganache. I have a recipe to show you how to make chocolate ganache. It will be shown at the top of your screen and in the description section. So you're basically just going to mold the cake mixed with ganache to create your mountain on top of the cake on one side of the pool. I'm wearing gloves because it can be quite sticky and messy. So I'm doing that, but you don't have to. It's a personal choice. So form and mold your mounting until you're happy. Don't make it too tall, otherwise it can be a little bit unsteady. So next I'm going to cover the entire cake with chocolate ganache. The reason I like to use chocolate ganache is it will set rock solid and it will form a good base for my cake. I have a full-length tutorial on how to make milk chocolate ganache. It's so easy to make, so you should check it out. It should be showing up at the top of your screen and in the description box. So you're just going to nicely layer the milk chocolate ganache over the surface and also dragging it up towards the mountain area. If you haven't subscribed, can you take a moment to hit the subscribe button? If you're not a DrMummyCake subscriber, you are missing out big time. I post a video every week and you don't want to miss out. So click the subscribe button and turn on the notification button. So here I am just spreading the chocolate ganache all over the cake in a nice generous thick layer and just smoothing it. Again, because of the nature of the cake, you don't have to be too precise. You want it to have a natural, more rustic look. Next, I'm moving on to applying the chocolate ganache on the sides of the cake, and I'm using an angled palette knife. This is easier to use than a straight palette knife because it's at an angle. So you want to be just giving a generous layer of ganache to cover the cake, just as you would do if you were doing a crumb coat. Ganache is so nice to work with, and if you haven't tried using ganache for your cake, now is a good time to try using it. And you can just see I'm just using a nice smoothing motion. But again, you don't have to be very precise, as we will still go over smoothing the cake using a buttercream scraper. The advantage with this cake is that we're going for a rustic look, so you don't have to be absolutely precise. So this is quite a good cake for cake decorating beginners, because any imperfection will just add to the beauty of your cake. So I'm just smoothing it using the palette knife, which you can do if you don't have a buttercream scraper, but that's one of the essential tools for cake decorating. So I would recommend that you get a buttercream scraper, and they're not expensive, and you can get one cheaply off discount website. So I'm using the ganache again to smoothing over the mountings as well, and that's quite good because when the ganache hardens, it will set rock hard and it will really make the mountings nice and stable. So once you're finished, we're going to put the cake in the fridge to harden, and here it is. And I'm going to be applying another coating of ganache to get a nicer, smoother finish. Now, I'm using the same milk chocolate ganache, but I wanted it to be a little bit lighter so that I have two different textures and color palettes. So I added a little bit of white chocolate to make it lighter, but you can use the same color of the initial ganache if you want. And again, we're just spreading it over the cake. Now it's much easier to do because you already have a base layer of the ganache, and we're going to follow the same process through. And now you can see I'm using a scraper to give me a nice smooth finish. We're just going to keep doing that until I'm happy with the finishing on the cake. So put your cake in the fridge for about 30 minutes so that it's nice and set. We'll start working on the bottom bit of the C. We're going to be using blue fondant. So I've kneaded the fondant and I'm just going to be rolling out a piece of fondant. If you don't know how to knead or how to prep your fondant, check out the video link showing at the top of your screen on what to do to make your fondant easier to work with. So roll it out, not too thick, not too thin. Now, use a nice blue color that reflects the color of the ocean. And I'm going to be using edible glue to stick it nicely to the ganache. The beauty about ganache is once it's set, you have a hard surface to work with and it's easy to work with. So I'm just going to be putting the fondant into the lake and then peeling off the excess. So this is going to be the bottom of the lake. And next, I'll be showing you an interesting technique on how to create edible water. And that's a lovely technique to have. And we're going to do that now. So these are the ingredients we need to make edible water. Lemon juice, 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, as well as some corn flour. You will also need measuring cups and measuring spoon for measuring your ingredients. Full details of the quantities you need are in the description box. You'll also need a pot. So pour the sugar into the pot. Next, add your lemon juice. And then you're going to add the corn flour. So for the lemon juice, we're using a total of 1/2 cup of lemon juice. You'll notice in this video, I actually used 1/4 cup, but I'm using 2 of them, which is equal to 1/2 cup. And that's just because I couldn't find my 1/2 cup measuring cup. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of corn flour into the mixture and use your measuring spoon to mix it so that the corn flour dissolves into the sugar and the lemon juice flavor. Next, put it on the hob. You want to put it on to medium heat, and basically you want to heat it up until the mixture becomes clear. So if you notice that there is still some corn flour that is not dissolved, you can again use your measuring spoon to just gently swirl it around and mix things up so that the corn flour properly dissolves into the water mixture. And we're just going to heat it up. As you heat it up, you will start to see that the colors changes from a cloudy mixture to become quite translucent, and you might want to mix up things every so often, stirring it up so that it doesn't boil over or burn. Now, I sped up the video so that you can see the process, how it starts to happen. And you can see a few times I'm just mixing it to make sure that it's nice and combined. And as you go along, you'll start to see that it becomes more and more translucent. Once it starts to bubble over, your solution is ready. And you've just got to leave it to cool down before you use it in your cake. One key thing is to make sure that the solution has cooled down before use. And also, to get that realistic water effect, you want to have something blue underneath, because remember, your edible water is transparent. So you can see here I've used fondant, blue fondant on my base so that that color blue reflects up and it looks just like a lake. So that's something to bear in mind. If you were doing a swimming pool, you'd want to have a sort of bluey green colouring underneath so that it looks like real water. And you can use a spatula just to create sort of waves and little movements so it looks really like water. Next, we're going to cover the base of our cake board with fondant. So you want to dab on edible glue onto your cake board, and we're just going to use a nice sheet of fondant. Don't make it too thin, otherwise you start to have breaks there. And if that happens, just gently cover that with the fondant. And you're going to use a smoother just to smoothen the fondant on so that it sticks onto the fondant. just like that. And I use a pizza cutter to cut off the excess fondant. You can also use a sharp kitchen knife, and again using the smoother just to smoothen this piece. And then you're going to go round and cover all the rest of the cake board with fondant, and I'm using white because it sets things off nicely. You can use any other color like brown or blue even, but you want to use a color that is very realistic. Now I'm just adding my fondant letterings. Unfortunately, I didn't video when I was making this because I made this in the middle of the night. But these are just elements just to add onto your cake. And I've also made just rocks with fondant and things to just resemble coral. And like I say, make life easy for yourself. If you can't make it, you can use plastic toys. So you can see my trees are made of plastic, and I'm just using some glue just to stick it onto there and to create the effect. So here is our finished cake, our whale and the snail cake. Works well for any seaside jungle theme cake, and we've learned lots of great techniques. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and a like for this video, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you for watching my channel, and I will see you next time. Happy baking!